Personal Power, Volume 2, Chapter 5, The Mental Laboratory. I love that. The third section of the general rule tells you to make a written list of all of the probable factors involved in the problem or undertaking. Compile a list of all of the probable elements involved in the working out of the matter. Gather together all of the ideas of the things at all likely to be called into the creative process. Have within easy reach the ideas of all of the materials likely to be employed in the construction of the ideal form which you wish to materialize. Here you proceed to supply the constructive imagination with the raw materials for its creative processes. You have seen that the constructive imagination does not and cannot create something out of nothing. Instead, it creates by combination, adaptation, adjustment, transformation, always employing the material which you furnish it for that purpose. Therefore, you must supply it with the kind of mental images which are best adapted for the creation of the new forms, images, or ideas which contribute to the manifestation of your definite purpose, your definite central ideal. This material, composed of mental images, is then employed both by your conscious mentality and by your subconscious mentality in their work of weaving or fusing the fabric of form of the necessary new images. You must get busy at this point. You have much real work ahead of you here. You must begin by acquainting yourself with the list of the things which seem likely to come into use in the working out of your definite purpose, your definite ideal. You need not be absolutely certain that all of the material being gathered in by you for this purpose really will prove necessary or even valuable in the process. Gather in all that seems at all likely to be of some use. In case of uncertainty on this point, give the material the benefit of the doubt and add it to your list. You may discard it later if need be. All that you need to do at this time is to gather together such materials as seem likely to be worth consideration in the matter. And note this, make a written list of all such items of promising material, for you will be called upon to do considerable thinking with your pencil in the work ahead of you. In the first place, you must fairly saturate yourself with the subject represented by your definite purpose and definite ideal, the achievement of which is so insistently desired, so confidently expected, and so persistently willed by you. You must learn at least the name and general character of everything connected with or related to that subject, if but even remotely related to it. This, because the images or ideas of these related things are precisely the stuff upon which your constructive imagination must depend for the materials which it must weave or fuse into newer and more efficient images. Everything that ever was invented, created, or composed by the constructive imagination is constituted of several elements. And these elements previously existed as separate, though related ideas. The same kind of ideas which you are now trying to accumulate as raw material. The men who invented, created, or composed these new things were dependent upon these separate images or ideas for their material. Without them, these men could not and would not have invented or created these new images. You are now in the same position as were they before their work was really begun, or rather before their definite purposes and definite ideals had begun to assume clearly defined form and proportions. Morse, Stephenson, Marconi, Edison, and the rest of the inventors were once in the same boat in which you are now. To duplicate their processes, you must gather together the raw materials just as they did. This should be plain enough for you, but do not proceed further until this truth is thoroughly grasped and appreciated by you. You must be well grounded in the facts of this fundamental principle before you properly may proceed to set the same into creative activity. There is no royal road to constructive imagination. All, high and low, always have, must now, and must always hereafter travel the same common road leading to the goal. This all includes yourself. A moment ago, we told you that you must fairly saturate yourself with the subject represented by your definite purpose and definite ideal, the achievement of which is so insistently desired, confidently expected, and persistently willed by you. You must learn at least the name and general character of everything connected with or related to that subject, even remotely related to it. But just how are you to saturate yourself with such knowledge? Just how are you going to know at least the name and general character of everything connected with or related to that particular subject? The correct answer to these questions involves a most important method of the scientific application of constructive imagination. And you should consider carefully the following information given as the answer. Consider this proposition. If some very wealthy man were to call you into his office and then make you the following offer, you would accept it at once and you would proceed to devise the proper means to accomplish the task and win the reward. There would be no hesitancy on your part about accepting it, we are sure. So here's the hypothetical rich man's offer to you. Mr. Blank, I want someone to prepare for me the fullest and most complete list possible of the things concerning or related to this particular subject. Here, naming the subject of your definite purpose and definite ideal. I will give you a salary of double the amount you are now earning and also pay all your expenses while you are conducting the search and preparing the list. When you have completed the list, if it is found to meet the requirements of reasonable completeness and perfection, I will make you a present of $100,000. Will you undertake the task? What would be your answer? You would accept, of course. Then what would be the first steps to your preparation of the list? Well, you would begin by reading the best textbooks covering the general subject, starting off with the descriptive articles treating upon it, which you would find in the best encyclopedias. You would saturate yourself with the subject. You would consult with persons employed in occupations necessitating at least a working knowledge of the subject. You would read the trade journals circulating among those engaged in such callings, not forgetting to read the advertisements. You would carefully consider the price lists and catalogs of houses dealing in the supplies required in these branches of work. In short, you would seek in every possible direction and from every possible source for the names of the things concerning or related to that special subject. You would seek every possible association of that subject, the subjects closely associated with it and having some practical relation to it. You would discover these associations by asking yourself these questions. 1, what is this thing? 2, of what is it composed? 3, what is its purpose? 4, for whose use is it intended? 5, what is its past history, its evolutionary story? 6, what are the things most resembling it? 7, what thing is most unlike it, its opposite? And many more questions of that sort. You would seek to fill your mind with the essential images connected with and related to your subject. But you would not be satisfied with merely learning the names of these connected or related things, though even these are great importance and really form the first step of your task. You would seek also to learn the meaning of those names. You would consult the best dictionaries, reference works, encyclopedias, etc., for the meaning of one term. You would uncover other terms closely associated with the one you are running down. Then you would search for the meaning of these new terms. You would learn the past history, the story of the evolution of the prime factors of your special subject. You would learn the various attempts to solve certain of the problems involved, the failures and successes. You would learn the various theories advanced in the history of the subject and the answer and objections to each. In short, you would fairly saturate yourself with the known facts concerning the subject and the subjects associated with it. You would know the name of everything involved in the subject and the meaning of that name. Briefly, you would fill your mind with the mental images, concepts, or ideas of each and everything connected with or related to that subject. Of course, You would use your pencil in noting down these names and their meaning, and you would think with your pencil. You would arrange your facts into classes, minor classes forming greater classes, and so on. You would have on your list every important element involved in the matter. You would know what each of these meant. You would have an adequate conception of each and every one of these elements. You would not be satisfied until your list was made as complete and as comprehensive as possible. The $100,000 reward would inspire you. But as you worked, the growing interest in the task itself would urge you on. You would have awakened the creative instinct, which had been laying dormant within you. Well then, this is just the way for you to go to work concerning the subject of your definite purpose and definite ideal. What you would do for the millionaire, you must do for yourself. You must work for yourself just as faithfully as you would work for such an employer. The same spirit must inspire you. The same interest must urge you on. The same creative instinct must be awakened. Here is what you must accomplish in this stage. You must make an inventory of all the essential elements involved in your special subject, and each name on that inventory must be so well understood by you that it constitutes a definite mental image, concept, or idea. The ideal inventory of important elements must include 1, every discoverable element thing employed or used in connection with that subject. 2, every discoverable important fact concerning that subject. 3, every discoverable important item of information concerning the essential application of that subject. 4, every discoverable important event or experience in the history of that subject. 5, every discoverable important cause affecting that subject. 6, every discoverable important effect produced by that subject. And 7, every discoverable important law, principle, or method employed in the processes connected with that subject. You must know 1, of what the thing is made. 2, how it is made. 3, who makes it. 4, who uses it or may use it. 5, what the users need it for and how they use it, and how others may use it, and the other ways in which persons may use it. 6, how it is sold or may be sold to those who use it. 7, the general methods of its distribution and the extent of such. The above are but general suggestions. You must adapt them and add to them according to the special requirements of the case. For the purposes of such list making, we make the following suggestions. Use freely a good encyclopedia, preferably one having a classified index or an efficient system of cross-indexing. Use trade or professional textbooks, encyclopedias, dictionaries, reference works, etc. Read the trade or professional journals relating to your subject, paying due attention to the advertisements. For advertisements properly read constitute a rich mine of suggestive ideas. Before we pass on to the next step in the process of constructive imagination, we would again emphasize the importance of having a definite, clear idea or mental image back of every name or term representing an essential element of your problem or subject. A name or term without an associated meaning is like a skeleton without flesh, nerves and muscles, and above all, without life. You do not know a thing merely by knowing its name. You know it only in the degree that you grasp the meaning sought to be expressed by that name. Get acquainted with your dictionary. Turn its pages and put flesh and meat on the bare bones of the mere names and terms that you know. Breathe life into them. Halleck says concerning this point, the formation of accurate images is essential to the right culture of the imagination. A good house cannot be built out of shapeless brick. The use of words without definite corresponding images is fatal to imagination. If we study any branch of science without representing to ourselves by imaginative power the meanings of the various terms, our time is somewhat more than wasted, for we are forming a bad habit. Molecular vibrations, tension of the ether, undulations of varying amplitude and length, valves of the heart, stamens, peltate leaves, Gothic arches. These are terms which should never be used without the ability to form sharp images in each case. A person who had been talking about defective flues as causes of fires was asked to state plainly what he meant by a defective flue. It was seen that he had no clear image corresponding to the term, which was simply a mask for his ignorance. Persons who allow themselves to use terms in this way must not expect to have much imaginative power. Let your meanings of names and terms take on the aspect of mental pictures or images of the thing represented by the names. See the thing in your mind's eye when you are intently thinking of it. Visualize it into mental life and vigor, and it will take on a world of new meaning to you when you wish to employ it as an element of constructive imagination. A lively imagination, in the true meaning of that term, is an imagination in which the images are alive and not mere lifeless verbal skeletons of things long since passed out of actual moving existence. Breathe the breath of life into your mental images. The fourth section of the general rule tells you to classify these ideas, elements, and factors according to their general nature, their general uses, their known relations and associations, cross-indexing them under appropriate headings and referring to the lesser elements, parts, or factors of which each is composed. Diagram and chart these ideas according to your system of classification so as to have the whole matter under your mind's eye, and that you may be able to grasp the arrangement at a glance without having to hunt for scattered items. By following this method, after having accumulated your materials of constructive imagination, i.e. your concepts, ideas, or mental images of the elements involved in the future creation of new images, you will arrange them according to some logical system of classification. In this way, you file away each particular concept or idea according to its proper place in the more general class, and thereby you are able more easily to find it when you need it. This plan, as compared with that of simply piling your ideas and concepts in a miscellaneous heap, is akin to the scientific method of filing away correspondence in a filing cabinet, as compared with that of simply throwing the letters together in a barrel, box, or large drawer. A businessman is able to find the letter he needs simply by going to his file and placing his hand on the proper compartment. He has an immense advantage over the one who has to hunt through a large mass of unfiled correspondence. It is not enough to have the idea of the thing. It is necessary to know where to find that idea when you want it. Psychology informs us that one may far more easily remember facts filed in the memory records according to some system of logical classification than where the fact simply exists somewhere in the mind. Your classification of concepts or ideas should be according to the general nature of the ideas, their natural associations with other objects, and their uses. For instance, in your mental file of building materials, there would be contained the concepts of stone, clay, brick, iron, steel, lumber, concrete, cement, tiles, etc. In your mental file of metals, there would be found the records of iron, copper, gold, silver, nickel, zinc, platinum, lead, tin, antimony, manganese, mercury, aluminum, cobalt, tungsten, etc. In your mental file of mechanical devices, there would be filed your records of axles, shafting, wheels, levers, pulleys, cranks, cams, eccentrics, winches, windlasses, inclined planes, wedges, toggle, joints, endless screws, belts, gear wheels, gearing, compilings, etc. In your mental file of fibers and textiles, there would be placed your records of cotton, flax, hemp, jute, linen, manila, hemp, noils, ramie, shoddy, silk, organzine, floss, silk, wool, and worsted, cord, artificial silk, artificial cotton, vegetable silk, etc. In your mental file of dairy products, you would place your records of milk, skim milk, casein, cream, butter, cheese, buttermilk, milk sugar, ghee, kefir, kumis, whey, etc. The above illustrative examples should be sufficient to indicate the general idea of efficient and practical classification. Each general classification, moreover, should be subjected to subclassification. Large classes should be divided and subdivided into the lesser classes. Small classes should be raised to higher and still higher classes, and so on until the highest general class is reached. The following table illustrated geometrical figures will serve as an example of such classification. Looks like this. See, I'll try to make another little image. But basically, this is how you want to classify things. In the above illustration, we have the smallest class of figures grouped according to its most positive quality. This group raised to the respective class of plane or solid, as the case may be. And this last class included in the general class of figures. One having at hand this table would have a complete index of his mental images representing the various forms included in the general class of geometrical figures. He would have a map or diagram of his knowledge of the subject, it being understood that each of the above terms must be accompanied by a clear mental concept of each figure, a clear meaning of each, capable of being stated in the terms of logical definition. The ideal theoretical system of classification would really be that in which each article was classified according to all its characteristics, its uses, its possible combinations, its associations, its relations, etc. Such a system, however, would be well nigh impossible, and for that matter would be far too complex and cumbersome for ordinary practical use. But you should not lose sight of the general principle nevertheless. The ideal for practical use would be a classification showing 1, every possible use or end to which a certain thing might be applied, employed, or directed, and 2, every possible thing which might be applied, employed, or directed to a certain use or end. The nearer you approach to this ideal in your work of classification of the things concerned with, connected with, or related to the general subject of your definite purpose and definite ideal, the better will be your chances of the successful achievement of that purpose, the successful realization of that idea. It is said that a certain eminent inventor possesses a very complete index and series of cross indexes of nearly everything concerned with the general field in which he is working. For instance, he has lists showing 1, all the discovered uses to which each and every such thing has been put, the discovered effects of the combinations with other things, the things most nearly related to or resembling it, and 2, each and every such thing which has been discovered to be possible of use, employment, and effect in the direction of producing or affecting a certain result, effect, combination, or composition. In short, he has the cause relations and the effect relations of every object on his list, noted and classified, indexed and cross-indexed. When this inventor wishes to know the possible causes of a desired effect, he turns to his indexes and the information is at hand. Likewise, when he wishes to know the possible results and effects related to a particular thing, he puts his hand on the information in the same way. The list is kept checked up and posted by a corps of assistants who note the reports contained in the scientific journals, etc., and also the results of their employer's own original experiments. He has built up and maintained a veritable encyclopedia of information relating to the things concerned with his own particular line of work. Consequently, he not only has a wealth of valuable information on hand, but he also saves an immense amount of time and labor when he's engaged in actual experimental and inventive work. While the illustrated instances above cited represent extreme cases, yet they serve to bring out the principle involved. It is not expected that you should undertake any such elaborate system or classification, yet you should not fail to employ its general principle to the highest degree of which you are capable or which you find possible under the circumstances. All else being equal, the person who has 1, the greatest store or concepts of mental images concerning the general subject of his definite purpose and definite ideal, and who 2, has that material the most thoroughly classified and indexed, either in his memory or mechanically, that person will manifest the highest degree of success in his work of constructive imagination. You would do well to impress upon your memory all new facts arranged according to their logical classification. You would do well also to use your pencil in making written lists of the things involved in your creative work. In short, every possible manner and by every possible method seek to 1, acquire concepts, ideas, or mental images related to your definite purpose and definite ideals. And then 2, classify these concepts, ideas, or mental images according to a definite, logical, scientific plan, so that you may find them easily and quickly when you need them in the work of constructive imagination. With well-selected materials in sufficient amount and stored away systematically so that you may put your hand on them when needed, you will have progressed very far on the road to the achievement of your definite purpose and definite ideal by the processes of the constructive imagination. Now then, when you have 1, acquired the concepts, ideas, or mental images related to your definite purpose and definite ideal, have 2, ascertained and thoroughly apprehended the full meaning of each of these items of material, and have number 3, properly classified, indexed, and charted them so that you have them arranged for efficient reference, what have you at your command? In the first place, you have compiled what may be called a thesaurus of your image ideas. A thesaurus is a treasury or a repository, the term often applied to a comprehensive reference work, a lexicon containing lists of words arranged according to the ideas or concepts which they express. A dictionary contains a list of words with the definition of each, the statement of the idea or concept which each expresses. A thesaurus, on the other hand, contains lists of words arranged in groups, each group representing a certain general idea or concept, which its several particular words express. When you wish to know the meaning of a word or term, you consult your dictionary. When you wish to find the several words or terms expressing a certain idea or concept, you consult your thesaurus, discovering there the term denoting the general class of ideas or concepts which you have in mind. You find arranged opposite it the several particular words or terms employed to express that class of ideas or concepts. In the thesaurus of image ideas, which you have compiled, you will find the image ideas related to or associated with the general idea or concept which you are employing in your work of constructive imagination. The smaller classes are grouped into greater classes, and those into still greater, and so on, until under your central image idea, you will find classified and grouped each and every particular related or associated image idea. Stop a moment and consider how valuable such a thesaurus of image ideas will be to you, or to any thinker, discoverer, investigator, researcher, or inventor, or businessman in the work of constructive imagination. The individual here performs his creative work surrounded by all the materials which will require all at hand. Employing another illustrative figure of speech, we may say that by following the previously mentioned plan of the collection and classification of the materials of the image ideas, you have built and stocked for yourself a great and valuable mental laboratory. You have proceeded upon the same general plan as that employed by scientists in the creation of their experimental laboratories. In these laboratories, there are workshops in which those scientists perform their experimental work are to be found the various elements which, when combined in certain arrangements and proportions, produce the sought-for synthetic compositions. The scientist in his laboratory and in his actual work follows the same general plan which you are to follow in your experimental work along the lines of constructive imagination, i.e., he tries first this combination and then that one until he reaches the best working combination, the most satisfactory composition. It is stated that Edison has perfected a similar laboratory, which he employs in his work of creative invention. It is reported that several years ago, he proceeded to test out every conceivable substance which seemed at all possible of being used as a filament for his electric bulb, and that step, by experiment after experiment, employing the process of test, trial, elimination, and selection, he finally settled upon the best possible known substance for that particular purpose. Luther Burbank is said to conduct his experimental work on plant creation in a similar way. He tests, tries, experiments, combines, separates, eliminates, and finally selects and preserves the fittest. Moreover, nature herself and her creative evolutionary processes is discovered to proceed along the same general lines. The history of natural evolution is but a record of ages-long series of experiments, tests, combinations, adaptations, and natural selection, ending in the survival of the fittest for the particular purpose at each particular stage of the process. The plan is but the taking of a leaf from the book of nature. It is based upon the sound, fundamental natures of natural creation. Herbert Spencer once thought out a plan whereby the patterns for fabrics, woven, knitted, or printed, and for wallpapers and other decorative material, might be easily and systematically discovered or created by means of the same general plan to which we have referred, and which is followed in laboratory work. His plan was that of combination and recombination of certain elemental patterns, figures, and designs according to a definite and systematic plan of test for desirable combinations and conjunctions. He said concerning this plan, could there not be a methodical use of components of design so that relatively few ideas should, by modes of combination, be made to issue in multitudinous products? And could not this be so done that draftsmen might produce them with facility, the system serving, as it were, not as a physical kaleidoscope, but as a mental kaleidoscope? Elmer Gates, the psychologist, inventor, is stated to have made many of his important discoveries and inventions in precisely the way indicated in our preceding consideration of effective constructive imagination, the method of combining the elements of previously classified concepts and images. In fact, he is said to attribute his success in his investigative work directly to the psychological methods based upon this general principle, which he had previously worked out and systematized. It is stated that Professor Gates has secured practically all of his many important discoveries and inventions in electricity and acoustics, his special branches of inventive work, in just this way. He is said to have spent several years and much money in acquiring the materials for his list of concept images, which form the elements of his constructive work in these branches. He is reported to have worked with a list of almost 2,000 simple concept images in electricity alone, from which he has produced about 15,000 complex data images. In acoustics, he is said to have worked with over 3,000 simple concept images, from which he has evolved nearly 10,000 complex idea images. Many believe that his methods and ideas, when finally known and adopted, will work a revolution in the world of inventive thought. The general plan at the mental laboratory, or of the mental thesaurus, which we have outlined for you in this section of this book, is applicable not only for the inventor, the investigator, the researcher, but for the businessman, the clerk, the salesman, the stenographer, or the worker in each and every line of business, trade, or profession. The principle is universal and may be applied in every field of human endeavor and industry. In fact, it is not too much to say that some of the elements of this plan have been consciously or unconsciously employed by every individual who has worked his way up from a subordinate position to one of authority and command. The essence and substance of the general idea is the gathering up and storing away of as many as possible of the facts associated with the work in which you are engaged. The ideas of the things likely to be needed at some time in that work, so that you may have them within easy mental reach at such times in which you have need for them. The task is twofold. Number one, the task of acquiring the necessary concepts, ideas, and mental images in question. And two, the logical, scientific classification and filing away of these facts, concepts, and ideas so that you may be able to put your finger on them easily and quickly when you have need for them. The individual who will saturate himself with these essential facts and who will classify and store them away for future use is certain to reap his reward of success, appreciation, and achievement in his particular line of work. Now then, let us proceed to the following section of this book, to the consideration of the final steps or stages of the processes of constructive imagination. In them is performed the work of combination, adaptation, arrangement, and composition of the elements or image ideas which form the stock and trade of your mental laboratory.